Are you a minus sign or a plus sign? So here's what I found is most people just compare themselves to themselves. So compared to myself, yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm a plus sign. But man, when I've taken groups through this, it's been really awesome to watch them discover more about what it means to be a plus sign or a minus sign. In other words, do you add value to somebody's life or do you subtract value from someone's life? So before you're quick to say, oh yeah, I'm a plus sign, I want you to think about this. Those folks that are minus signs, what we found is that 10% of people are just minus signs on purpose. They do like to take people down. As my mentor John Maxwell says, he's like, you get on the elevator with them, the only button they know is the basement, and they're taking you there with them. So 10% of the people, yeah, intentionally minus signs. But the other 90% of the people who are minus signs in our lives are minus signs just because they're unintentional. In other words, they're not setting out to be a minus sign in your life. They do it just because they're unintentional in the day. Why does that happen? Because I believe naturally we're selfish. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I didn't have to work on myself to become selfish, right? I didn't have to teach myself to become selfish. And then with my kids, I didn't have to work really hard to teach them to become selfish. We're naturally selfish. We tend towards the minus sign, and the minus sign can take away from people. So this minus sign, if you're unintentional, you might be a minus sign, 90% chance. Same is true for becoming a plus sign. So a plus sign, again, there's 10% of the people that are just naturally positive, encouraging people. They don't have to work real hard on it, and they're a plus sign. But for the other 90% of the people in your life that add value to you, that are a plus sign, that are encouraging, that are uplifting, those people are intentional about being a plus sign in your life, intentional about adding value to your life. So here's the question. Are you intentional or unintentional? Do you wake up and say, how can I be a plus sign? How can I add value to somebody's life? When I first learned this, I thought, man, let me try this out a little bit. Because again, if it hasn't transformed me, it won't transform anyone else. And who's my leadership development program? My children. So I went home. I'm like, okay, who do I want to add value today? I want to add value to my son, Will. How can I be a plus sign in his life? How can I serve him? Well, I'm going and he's making his lunch for the next day. He's making his lunch, and I walk up to him and I say, hey, Will, is there anything I can do to help you? And he looked at me and he got this big old smile on his face and he goes, really, Dad? And I'm like, well, there's a sign that I may not have been a plus sign very often while he was making lunch, right? And he said, yeah, will you go get me the lunch meat in the garage? I went to the lunch meat. I went to the garage, got the lunch meat, and gave it to him. And man, he had this just huge smile on his face. Thanks, Dad. Just being intentional. How can I serve you? Again, leaders add value to others by serving them, by being a plus sign. There was another group that I was taking through this. I wanted to share this story, and then I want to share like how many different ways you can be intentional about being a plus sign, and where you may be unaware. But this other story, I was taking a group of about 30 folks through the same teaching that I'm talking to you right now, and this guy I went through, and he heard what I just told you, and he looks around the room, and there's 30 people in the room, and he goes, that means 3 of you are jerks on purpose. He used more colorful language, but that's what he was saying. And he got it. So the other 27 people in the room that he works with all the time, they may not have been trying to be minus signs on purpose. But there were 3 that might have been intentional. The other ones were just unintentional. And then we had a big laugh about it. And we go back to that all the time. So here's some questions that I want you to think about adding value and being a plus sign. When you're sending an email and you just send it, and you haven't been intentional about, am I being a plus sign or minus sign? You might be a minus sign. I work with lots of organizations, and I get to hear about emails from different departments all the time where it's just like, oh, do they know what they're doing? No, they're being unintentional. They're doing their job. They're doing work, and they're not trying to be bad. Their motives aren't bad, but they're coming across as a minus sign. What about when you send that text? Am I being a plus sign or a minus sign? What about when you make that phone call? Am I being a plus sign or a minus sign? What about just an interaction with somebody? Am I being a plus sign or a minus sign? Again, we add value to others by valuing others. And man, in today's world and all that we're dealing with, man, valuing people, you become a plus sign if you value them. You also become a plus sign by making yourself more valuable. An example of that is when I was meeting with this individual, this guy, and he had this position, and we went through some personality stuff. And man, when he took his personality profile, he got it back, and he was just like, man, this personality is like a personality that's a weak personality, that's a more emotional personality, that's more he thought of it more of as a female personality, which it wasn't, but that was his perception. And I went through this, and I'm like, how can I add value to him? How can I be a plus sign? So I went and searched people of a similar personality profile. And I found some of the greats in his industry. And about 3 weeks later, I met with him, and I gave him that list of names. And he looked at the list of names, and he's like, man, these are some amazing people. And I go, do you know what you have in common with those people that have done great things in your industry? He goes, no, what is it? And I said, they have the exact same personality style as you. You could just see it take over him and how much it meant to him. And that was just by being intentional about being a plus sign and making myself more valuable by studying and understanding it so that I could add value to him. And the other way that we add value to others is to know and relate to what others value. To know and relate to what others value. So the question for this week, to lead a strong life, a brawny life, is, are you being a plus sign or a minus sign? I promise you, if you are intentional about being a plus sign, that you will have more freedom in all that you do. Freedom in your relationships, and freedom in your career, and freedom in your team. Look, you can even be a plus sign when you're letting someone go, firing someone. You're like, you're kidding me, Bron. No, you can. One of my mentors said you can promote them to customer. You truly, if you value someone, even if you have to do hard things, you can be a plus sign. It just takes intentionality. So that's what I want y'all to hear. When I'm disciplining someone, when I have a corrective action program or a write-up or a personal growth plan, whatever you call it, those things can actually add value to people's lives if you value the person in front of you. So are you going to be a plus sign or a minus sign? Here's to being plus signs and being intentional to make a difference in this world.